Hello, it's Richard Bowser here from Property Investor News magazine, and I'm here at the London Real Estate Forum in Berkeley Square with Angus Knowles-Cutler. Good morning, Angus.
Good morning, Richard.
So you're the London managing partner for Deloitte?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So appreciate your time here.
Pleasure.
You had just conducted this morning the opening keynote session at the London Real Estate Forum, which is an annual gathering of real estate professionals, property professionals in the commercial sector primarily, here in the UK. So can you just recap a little bit about what you were talking about in your initial briefing to the about 500 people in the room,
Yes.
but also a little bit of a snapshot about what was discussed in the debate afterwards.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure, Richard. So we talked this morning in the opening session about the future of the London economy, where we stand now and where we're going with the London economy. And I was pleased that I could unveil some new research that Deloitte's undertaken that looked at a couple of things, particularly a couple of things that I think people are wondering about post the Brexit vote.
Yes.
The first thing I actually showcased was some research we've undertaken at Deloitte, which looks at the number of foreign major headquarters that are in Europe. Because I think it's a big question for people, is are businesses leaving London for other parts of Europe? And it was very encouraging, the research. We'd looked back in 2013 at the same numbers, and we looked again just now. And we looked at how many of the Fortune 250 businesses, the biggest businesses in the world, who have their head offices in Europe, not European businesses, so Americans, Canadians, Chinese, Japanese. We looked at how many are in London versus other cities. And the good news from a London point of view is 44% of head offices are in London today. And in fact, there's no rival city anywhere near across Europe. I mean, Paris, Frankfurt, Berlin may have one or two each. We've got over 70. And looking over time, what was encouraging as well was it's stayed the same. So we haven't lost and we haven't gained, but London still seems as attractive as ever as the main gateway into Europe for foreign businesses.
Well, certainly if we look at the attendance here today at the London Real Estate Forum, there's certainly plenty of interest in London property and real estate. There's some observations, I think, that were also made about the digital economy and how attractive London is as a destination.
Well, an interesting thing that came out of this morning's debate was that London, by any measure, is the centre for AI and other new technologies in Europe. And a lot of that, I think, is around the fact we have 40 universities in London, some world-class research, some world-class teaching. And what seems to be happening is, once you've got that, you create a hub of business around those new technologies. Plus, by European standards, we have by far the most developed digital economy in terms of consumers and business. So that was very good news there. What was interesting also was when we looked at new occupancy and occupancy that's being booked in the next few years, 40% of it was still financial services. And I think despite a lot of the Jeremiahs saying that's declining, it's still very significant in terms of the future of London. After that was technology with 26% of occupancy, but a lot of growth around across sectors in London, not just in one sector in particular.
Okay. And geographically within London, mention made about the shift to the east. I think that John Mulrine from Ballymore made an observation about East London. I mean, any observations about that?
I think it's definitely the case from what we're seeing that there is a pivot eastward. It's not to the detriment of central London or West London, but if you look at some of the exciting developments, around Stratford, around East London, UCL's new campus, there's certainly a pivot to the east, and frankly, it's a healthy thing, both in terms of the sectors that are represented in London, which seems to be very broad, and also the geographic spread of London. Yes.
And one other thing that we were talking earlier about is it's not just London, it's also Manchester in particular. A lot of Chinese investment into Manchester, and Manchester's economy seems to be very strong at the moment. A lot of build going on up there. Yeah,
and I think that's absolutely right. And I think there's a Manchester success story about China coming to the northern powerhouse and opportunities elsewhere. I mean, I think the fundamental for any city, what makes a city attractive to Chinese investment are a number of things. One is an existing Chinese community.
Yes.
Second is actually good schools and universities, and the UK is seen as the best country in the world from Chinese investors in terms of education. So good schools, good universities, good infrastructure, direct flights from China. And I think that's what Manchester and probably Birmingham are able to offer as well. So it's not just a London story.
No.
It's a wider story.
Indeed. And just turning back to London, because we are here at the London Real Estate Forum, from the panel, what would you say are the few challenges perhaps that London faces in order to maintain this fairly positive status that it currently has, which appears from your latest survey to be very positive?
Yes.
What are the impediments, the challenges, perhaps, that we don't slip off this pedestal?
Well, I think you're right to raise the question, Richard, because complacency would be a disaster for London. So, although everything's pointing in the right direction post the Brexit vote, being the office manager of Deloitte in London, we've got 10,000 people, 107 nationalities.
Right.
And although we'd love to employ as many Londoners and Britons as we can, we're a global business in a global city.
Yes.
So keeping the message going and strong that London is open to talent from around the world is going to be absolutely critical, not just for a business like mine, but for the SMEs in London. And one of the risks of getting that message wrong is a survey we conducted at the end of last year, asked over 2,000 non-Britons how they felt about the UK. Great news was 87% said they were very positive or quite positive about the UK. But where the risk, when you broke down the number of people in the survey, the biggest risk is to younger people in high-skill occupations in London, web designers, doctors. So we have to work very hard to convince them that this is the place to stay.
For the future.
Yes.
Indeed. Well, that's really what we, as Londoners, as Brits, that's what we want. Thank you very much for your time today, Angus.
Yep.
Appreciate your input, as will viewers of this video.
Great pleasure, Richard.
So it's Richard Bowser here, Property Investor News from the London Real Estate Forum here in Berkeley Square